Well, I think it showed what type of team they can be, and this is the level of expectation. You heard what Lamar said. This is how it should be. This is what is expected of us, and we hold Lamar. Do you guys realize? I don't know if you realize this, Rex and Stephen A. That Lamar Jackson is one of 3 men that currently have an MVP in this league: Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Aaron Rodgers. 3 guys of all the players, there's 1,500 players, have an MVP. So we have to judge him. We have to critique him to the highest standard. And when he plays, last week they lost the game. The Ravens was 1 for 6 in the red zone. Guess what they were this week? 5 of 6. I talked about Lamar Jackson. You've got to do a better job of holding on to the football, the interceptions, the fumble. Guess how many turnovers he had yesterday? None. And when he plays a clean game, I'm not expecting him to go past for 357. But I don't think it's a bit much to ask to him to play a clean ball game. Take care of the football. He did a great job of distributing the football. I think 9, 10 different guys caught passes yesterday. Mark Andrews was sensational. Zay Flowers was good. Nelson Aguilar, Richard the fullback. They played a complete ball game, and when they play a complete ball game, get out of their own way. This is what they're capable of. It showed me the Lions, Stephen A. last week was number 1 on your power ranking, a team that was a top 5 team in everybody's power ranking, and they took them apart. This is the Ravens that we expected to see in Todd Monken. And for me, for the first time, I saw what this offense could be when Lamar Jackson is playing Lamar Jackson-style football.
I feel you on that, Shannon Sharpe, but I mean, it's a certain thing. When you beat a team, that's fine. When you whip their ass, it's a different animal altogether, okay? You're the Detroit Lions. You came in as a top 7 defense, number 1 against the rush, okay? You get into the red zone one time, okay? You're down by 28 points, 35 points, 35-0, touchdown. I mean, Lamar Jackson just put on an absolute show. But that doesn't excuse what we saw from the Detroit Lions. I had them you talk about a team that won 4 straight by at least 14 points, and then you go to Baltimore and you stink up the joint. Now, if it had been somewhat of a shootout, but ultimately Baltimore had pulled away, if Baltimore had won the game, and let's say, for example, it was respectable, but then in the 4th quarter they pulled away and they won like 38-21 or something like that, I'd get you. But they were down 28-0 before we had an opportunity to take a lunch break, for crying out loud. It was that damn bad. And I'm just looking at some of these numbers here, okay? Just so you know, 0-1 in the red zone, Coach. We had Jared Goff sacked 5 times, was caught for an intentional grounding once and threw several other passes into the turf, by the way. You got Monken, you brought him up, right? This is the Baltimore Ravens. 10 plays of 20 or more yards on Sunday, the most by any team in the NFL this season. We got to take into account they managed 38 points, over 500 yards of offense on only 55 plays, 9.1 yards per play. Shannon, I get what you're saying. I really, really do. The Baltimore Ravens are a team to be reckoned with. We need to elevate our level of respect and recognize them as the threat that they are, Coach. But in the same breath, I mean, damn. One team clearly did not show up, because I don't give a damn how great the Ravens are. You're not supposed to show up like this if you're the Lions. Not like this.
Yeah, and I totally get it. But I also get where Dan Campbell's coming from, all right? And because, look, the 3 out of their last 4 games were on the road, okay? So I'm not surprised that Baltimore won the game. I am surprised by the level of dominance, okay? It looked like, they could have stayed out there forever and never been stopped. By the way, Lamar Jackson, are we getting our money's worth right now?
No question.
No question, right? That was something that I always said. They're getting their money's worth.
Should we officially retire that question,
Yes.
Rex Ryan? What's the date today?
Yes, we should.
October 23rd, we're going to retire the question.
Please do. And I'm going to even say, because
retire the question, is Lamar Jackson worth the money?
Okay.
Because I think he is, because in all fairness, when we said it, he was coming off a game where they had 8 drops, and 3 of those drops were touchdowns. This team could very easily be 6-0, all right, or undefeated right now, the Ravens. Yeah. However, Detroit, this is a sign of, it's just one game. I think they're going to come back. 2 things are going to happen. You're going to get beat again next week, or you're going to bounce back. I truly believe this team will bounce back. And I think they'll bounce back in a big way. Shannon, myself, we've all had our butts kicked. All right? It's how you come back from it. And this could be a learning thing. What they need to learn from this is you're not as good as you think you are. The other thing is you only have one guy that can rush the passer. That's concerning to me. We got a trade deadline coming up. Are the Lions going to be active? If you really want to compete for it all, we need to rush the passer better. There were times in that game, Lamar Jackson had 9 seconds in the red zone, for goodness sakes, to throw the football.
Oh, yeah, one touchdown, he had 10 seconds before he he had 10 seconds before he threw a touchdown.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
No.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Right.
So to me, look, Lamar was incredible. I love the game plan by Monken. What did he do? The first thing, get them on their heels. How we do it. Move the pocket, run boots, all that stuff. They had no answer for it. And then to sit back and throw the ball down the field was absolutely tremendous to me. So I just think it was a great game plan by the Ravens. They were way more the physical team, which doesn't happen against Detroit much. And so to me, I think it's a learning thing from Detroit. I'm not overreacting by it. I think they'll still be in the top 5.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Think about how many times we saw them leak the back, leak the fullback, leak the tight end out the right side, and all of a sudden you're picking up 20, 30, 40 yards, even scoring a touchdown. But guys, here's the thing. The thing that's unique about sports is unlike any other job. Any other job, you're graded on an annual basis. Okay, you have your annual review. That's not how it works in pro sports, especially football. You're graded on a weekly basis. And I tell people all the time, you must update that resume on a weekly basis. So if Lamar Jackson plays bad, think about if they had gotten out of their own way against Pittsburgh. They had Pittsburgh, it was 10-0 at one point in time, going up and down the field. And then you're right, you get a drop here. But then all of a sudden you get a strip sack. So,
daily, if not
we get daily basis.
Roberts, you know what I'm saying? Ain't wait no year, ain't no annual evaluation. Not with that brother as my boss. That's number one. Number two, I want to say this too. We got to be real about this with Lamar Jackson. Every point you made is absolutely right, Shannon, but there's another nugget. We also have to judge him by history. The reality is he's been in the league. He's got one playoff victory. That one playoff victory was against Ryan Tannehill. So when we talk about Lamar Jackson, because of the level of greatness that you're talking about, because of the near-perfect passer rating yesterday afternoon, because of the fact that he's got a league-high 6 games this year with a completion percentage of 70% or better, they're 5-2. They could easily be 7-0. We get all of that. When you see the level of greatness, Lamar Jackson has to make sure, because we all know he's worth his money because he's box office. You walk through the turnstiles to see him. So I don't know what this debate was about whether or not he's worth his money. Of course he's worth his money. But you still are looking for him based on what you and Shannon articulated and highlighted. At some point when it really, really counts, and we know that means the playoffs, you got to be that dude then too. Yeah. You can't do this during the regular season. And then, even though he was hurt the last 2 years and missed the last 2 regular seasons, we got all that 11 games he's missed over the last 2 years, last 5 games each of the last 2 seasons. The bottom line is you still have to show up in the postseason. When you're that great, we don't want to see you home in January watching the playoffs with the rest of us. We expect to see you. Let Patrick Mahomes send you home. Let that happen. Right. You can live with it. Same thing I said about Aaron Rodgers. Let Patrick Mahomes send Aaron Rodgers home. Let Patrick Mahomes send a Josh Allen home. But when you see these elite quarterbacks, if somebody like that ain't the one sending you home, we're asking, why the hell are you home? And that's what it is.
Yeah, but you just said it. He wasn't available the last 2 years.
Right.
All right. He got hurt. That happens. All right. I'm going to look at this. By the way, he's 16-1 against NFC teams. So that's another nugget we can say about him. He's not the same guy he was when he was younger in those playoff games. This guy is a much better passer.
Right.
And this thing is set up more for his overall skill sets. When he first got in the league in those playoff games, it was all run. And it was using Lamar as an athlete. Now he's a complete quarterback, not just a great athlete, one of the greatest athletes we've ever seen at that spot, but also a great passer. Reminds me a little bit of Steve Young when it came back into the fact, remember, he was a great athlete first. Well, he became a great passer. Right. I'm seeing that out of Lamar Jackson. So to me, when he gets in those playoffs, you better be a Patrick Mahomes or you're not sending him home.
Right. And that's the thing. The thing, guys, is that he had success so early. Remember, he's one of the handful of guys in their second year full starting win the MVP. We saw Dan Marino do that in his second year, Patrick Mahomes do it in his second year, and then Lamar Jackson follows it up with an MVP. So the criticism and the critique of him is going to be a little harsher because he had success early. And it's like, okay, Lamar, you won an MVP. You've had individual success. Now it's time for you to put this team on your back. And he has the weapons around him. They can run the football with Gus Edwards and Hill. Lamar Jackson sprinkled in, and they got receivers outside always. Mark Andrews is going to be his most trusted and reliable receiver. But they've got guys on the outside that can make plays. It's just consistency. That's what it's about. It's consistency. I go to any chain restaurant and I know what the food's gonna be like. I go to McDonald's, I go to Mastro's, I go to Del Frisco's. They sell me consistency. And that's what I need Lamar Jackson to sell me, consistency. I need to know week in and week in what I'm gonna get.
First of all, Shannon, love you. You know that, my brother. Stop lying to the public. You know good and damn well you don't go to no McDonald's.
And sorry
I
about
don't.
that.
I don't, Stephen.
I had like 8 cushions on my seat.
I don't, Stephen. I
Sorry
don't.
about
I
that.
don't.
I had like 8 cushions on my seat.
I got you.
They must have thought it was
I don't.
chair.
I don't. But you know, no matter where, if you go to McDonald's in LA, you go to McDonald's in Atlanta, you go to McDonald's in Detroit, a Big Mac's gonna taste the same.